Welcome to As Above.
So below,
I am Kisha Lee, the Psychic Yogi.
and I'm Cidnee Rich, and this is the new moon in Scorpio edition. Welcome back, you guys. We did take a little bit of a hiatus because Miss Kisha was visiting her home of South Korea for a month, but we're so happy to have her back, and we're happy to be back with you guys. And to get into this new moon in Scorpio energy, which I think is really fitting that we're starting again on this new moon. And I'm excited that we get to chat about this Scorpio energy before we go into Sag season, because it has, in its true form, been very transformative. It's been very pivotal in kind of this whole astrological year. And I really do feel energetically that this is the beginning of a new cycle. So astrologically, what's going on? Obviously, the moon and the sun are both conjunct in Scorpio. So that brings us our lovely new moon. This is the dark moon. We can't see it in the sky. So it has all those tenets and components of being introspective, maybe being to yourself, maybe feeling a lot more internally and deeply and, emotionally, if that is resonating with you. Scorpio is that fixed water sign. So it likes to get into it, even if it likes to kind of sometimes act as if it doesn't, right? Scorpio energy is the investigator. It is the detective. It gets down deep into things. And so this is a good time for you also to be getting deep down into things. But as we talk more about this energy, you might have already been in that space. And now there's just more conscious awareness of the depths of the changes that have happened to you during this Scorpio season or throughout this entirety of this year. Because as I mentioned, and we've talked about throughout this year, 2023 is a 7-year, and it's all about alignment. And in order for us to align, we have to do lots of changing. We have to do lots of moving and shifting. And that is not just a, all of a sudden process. That is a process that we've taken on this whole year. And so as we're nearing the end, we're in November, which is insane to even think about. We've done a lot of realigning. We've done a lot of shifting. We've done a lot of changing. And with this new moon, I feel that that's coming very much to our conscious awareness, these new beginnings, these changes that have already happened. And that's kind of with the transformation. I looked up the definition because, we've talked about that before, looking at the definition of the words that the energies kind of embody. And the definition of transformation is a dramatic change. And so change means becoming different. And a dramatic change is not something that comes overnight. It can, of course, but let's think about, like, I'm going to use weight loss because to me, that's something that takes a long time, right? And when you do all that work over those months, over whatever, and then you finally take that after picture and you see that dramatic change, that transformation that has occurred on your body, it's like, wow, you are a different person. And like that's that Scorpio energy. We are different. We are different than who we were a month ago. We are absolutely different than who we were when we came into this year. And so it's not, all of these moon cycles are connected. And maybe we didn't, get to connect with each other during the full moon or Astro Reiki, but that doesn't mean we didn't still, experience that energy. And so nothing is happening in a silo. Nothing is happening without the other things that have already occurred. And so when we think about a transformation in this new moon, it's not like, boom, today, this new moon, this November 13th, everything's different. We're different. No, it's a conscious awareness of the transformation that has been occurring throughout this whole year. And so with that, though, you might emotionally be feeling it more because it's that awareness is like, oh shit, like I have changed. I do feel different. I am different. this situation is different. My relationships are different. Like that might be more, you know, today or the next couple of days or the past previous days. Remember, we just had the 11/11 portal. So it could be this like awareness of the change, but we've been evolving throughout this year, growing gradually, right? Developing gradually. And what's going on in the cosmos as above that is affecting us here below. We talked about the conjunction of the moon and the sun, but there's also a conjunction with Mars. So Mars, the moon, and the sun are all in Scorpio, and they're all within the same degrees of each other. And so we're feeling this active energy with that Scorpio and Mars. And there's this action that's happening. And like I was just speaking with Kisha, it's a very internal thing because of Scorpio energy. Scorpio is that feminine aspect, right? So it's internal, it is emotional, it is within. We're in a new moon. It is a very feminine phase of the feminine lunar cycle. It is within. We are sitting in our self. And so with that, the action that we're seeing and action that we're feeling is very internal, and it's something that may not be, you know, able to recognize on the outside, but it's something that we feel. You know, you can't, unless you wear your heart on your sleeve, right? Which that's, you know, obviously not saying that that person isn't also feeling that internally, but typically our emotions, we're able to conceal how we're feeling. And that Mars energy, this action that's happening and swirling within us, it might be bubbling up. You know, there might be a lot of release or a lot of like I said, awareness of what's going on. And that makes sense because that new moon is introspective. If you're being introspective, you're looking and being a detective of yourself, where you are, how you feel, what feels good, what doesn't, you know, what has changed, and how that change is affecting you, and how that change is weird, and how that change is good, or whatever. You're introspective. You're being a detective. You're paying attention. You're looking at it, and so it can be jolting. It can be jarring. It can be like, dang, like, woo, okay. To insert a word that's used a lot, it could feel intense or powerful, right? It could feel like, wow, I have changed. And I just think a lot of the energy with this new moon is more of that acceptance of that awareness that you have already done all the changing. It is just now knowing that that changed self is what's moving forward, is who's moving forward. And we may not know exactly how that's going to manifest externally because we're still kind of grappling and seeing that like we've already done that, like the changes happen internally. So it could feel like we're not at the beginning because we're not like actively outside of us seeing what that looks like yet, but the change is already there. And that is lovely, and that's beautiful, and it can be hard, and it can be difficult. And so we're going to talk about the death energy here, right? Death. And I went on a little like a rant on social media about death on Saturday, which was interesting, but also as above, so below. We were already in the Scorpio moon by then. And death is an inevitable thing, right? I was like, none of us are getting out of here alive. Newsflash, right? So it happens whether we want it to or not. And that's Scorpio energy, like emotional change, deep rooted things that we maybe don't want to look at, because Scorpio energy is also very shadow energy. It's very much so like that subconscious, like, no, 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 no. I'm going to shove it down here. I don't want to look at that. It's too much. It's too murky. It's too scary. I don't want to see that. But it's like we can't avoid it. It's there. And so that's when I get the death card in tarot, I really love it because it means that what we're asking for is already here, and like spirit is bringing it to us right in front of us. We can't avoid it. It's here. It's happening. And that's what we really want if we think about it. When we ask for things, when we're manifesting things, we can't have what we want unless we get rid of what we have. Whether that's a relationship or the mindset around something, whatever that is, that both those things can't live together. Like something's got to go. And what I think is important is to shift the perspective of why Saturn and Pisces, right? Saturn is creating the structure, and that's what we're also in. It just went direct during Scorpio season. So we're rebuilding the structure of our future through this Pisces energy of saying, okay, what I want, I can look at it as my dreams are possible, but I also have to get rid of the barriers that were not allowing them to manifest. And that's kind of what this death energy feels like for me with this Scorpio season. It's like, if I really want this, then this has to go. And maybe that's not such a bad thing, but it's a shift in looking at, in order for us to get what we want, get what we desire, get what we're manifesting with the new moon, we've got to let something go, but something more awesome, something more aligned, something more amazing is taking its place. And that's that rebirth energy of death. It's not bad for things to end because it's making space. And I talked about that so much recently when I was doing readings. Shout out to Protect Your Energy conference. It came up so much that like you can't have something if there's no space for you to have it. Like you got to make space in your life. And that's a big part of that death energy. Like you have to end something to begin or have something new. And it's also this, I looked at what death meant, and it's like an irreversible cessation. Cessation. It's a weird word. But it's like you can't go back. Why do we want to go back? Right? Like, why would we want to go back to something that wasn't working? Like, even if it's a person or a career or whatever, and we want that thing, don't we want it to be different than what it was? Because what it was wasn't working. And it's shifting how you look at something being over. It's like that cycle is over. That energy that was in is dead. It doesn't mean that it can't be reborn, but it can be reborn in a much more aligned, healthy, exciting energy, like going into this like full moon that we'll have in Gemini, right? So I think it's just a deep emotional understanding that things have changed, but we're already in that new energy and it's already happening. So last, I pulled this card, which I thought was cool, and then I'll pull a few tarot cards, but from my Kali Oracle, which she is the goddess of death and rebirth, I got a process of profound and enduring transformation is leading you toward a powerful rebirth, free from even the most persistent patterns or pains of your past. Your soul is in deep healing. Recovery can be painful, but you will emerge renewed and released. You are blessed to experience a new life within this lifetime. Love it.
See.
So let's see what the tarot has to say. All right. We're using a Light Seers deck. What does the collective need to know about this new moon in Scorpio, this new cycle that we are beginning? The awareness that is coming to us as we look within and recognize and accept the changes, the transformation, the evolution that has already occurred. Okay, it's all about not being fearful. We cannot fear what is coming. We cannot fear death. Why? I said that in my social post. We don't know what death brings. It could be the most amazing thing ever. So why be fearful of something that we haven't experienced? We don't know this new chapter that we're walking into, but why not think of it and shift hangman, our perspective? I kept talking about the perspective shift, and that's why the hangman is here. We have to look at our new cycle, our new life differently. And we can't hold on to fear. We can't hold on to what was just because it was comfortable. We all know that stepping outside our comfort zone is where we grow. And so the Knight of Wands is saying, this isn't a time to stop. This is a time to just keep going, keep on that path, and open yourself up to your feelings. That is an important thing here with the Queen of Cups coming up reverse. You don't want to hide from the different emotions that come up during this time, because that, to the point that we just read with Kala Ricci, we're not facing the pain. We're not facing the past, right? So we're going to bring all that with us? No, we have to accept the feelings that we have that comes with this change. And the bottom of the deck is a reverse 7 of Swords. We can't lie to ourselves. We can't pretend that things aren't not what they are. We can't pretend that things haven't changed. We can't pretend that we haven't asked for change. We haven't asked for evolution. We have, but that fear and that doubt is what is keeping us from surrendering to this new energy, surrendering to this new cycle.
That was deep. Right. Somebody's clapping. That was deep. I am excited to be back. My Scorpio rising and my Scorpio placements are like, woo! Actually, right before you pulled the tarot, while you were shuffling the deck, like I just got this overwhelming energy, like in my sacral chakra, like in my hips and my pelvic cavity, like just, I couldn't tell what it was, but I felt like something was brewing there, so I'll have to dive into that area, I guess, a little later and see what that was about. But yeah, there's a couple things before I go into the collective reading. One of the things that came to mind is there is a saying, I'm not sure who said it originally, but it's been around for a while, that change is inevitable, suffering is optional. And to me, the first part, we know that change is inevitable. I mean, we see that through the seasons. We see that as women through our regular cycles. We also see that just in the cycles of birth to death, we see that through generations. We see that change in communities and in society and in genders and so forth, gender roles throughout the years. So we've seen change happening. We know that change is inevitable. There used to be dinosaurs here. Okay. Now there's not. They're smaller now. They're lizards and stuff and snakes, but whatever. But the second half, suffering is optional. It's really about shifting your perspective of things, right? And sometimes those changes bring about experiences that are undeniably difficult and challenging and hard, and can break us down in order for us to be rebuilt, or to have a breakthrough, so that the collective and us as individuals can choose through our free will how we want to move forward, how we can shift the perspective so that we can shift into a new reality. I actually used to write blog posts and stuff called Shifting Perspective, so it actually makes sense that me and Cidnee are on point. we're in sync as usual. But one of the things that I also want to mention is how when I was going through my spiritual awakening, like in my late 20s, my mentors, they would always talk about the unknown, and the unknown being a fearful place. Well, I was a very precarious student in these spiritual classes. I was always the one that was kind of like little bit of a rebel. I'm still kind of a rebel, just not as much as I used to be, maybe. But I'm one of those people, like, if you're gonna tell me one thing, I'm gonna take it, and like my mind is gonna go all over the place with it, trying to figure out all. It's like a Rubik's cube, trying to figure it all out. And I realized, I'm like, well, if I have free will, and people say the unknown is, there's a lot of fear attached to the unknown. And I said, well, if I have free will and that trumps everything, right, then I'm going to declare to the universe that the unknown is a safe place of self-discovery, of potentiality. It's a safe space for co-creation with the divine. It is a safe space for me. I started to write and affirm what the unknown was going to be for me to experience, and detach it from that fear-based, energy of trauma based responses, and the unknown just being this scary dark place. It's And so ever since then I've done the same thing with retrogrades, because so we start ingesting, like, other people's thoughts and opinions and energy, whether we realize it or not, when we're scrolling social media or watching the news and things like that. And we don't realize that we're taking in consciously, but also subconsciously, a lot of this just, information. And we don't realize how it starts to shape our mindset. And when we are around certain communities and that fear becomes reinforced, it feels like it's truth. And it doesn't have to be. Okay. You can still be in the world, but not of it. And that doesn't mean you're just walking around all love and light, peace and harmony. It just means that you're placed within that community. And that is a space where you can cultivate not only compassion, but intuitively inspired action in the direction of your dreams, and one with the greater hope. Okay. So your homework is to figure out, how do you see and identify the unknown, and how do you want to rewrite that script? How do you want to flip the script of that? Okay, the story, the narrative that you've been told, but also that you've been telling yourself. Right, that chapter you've been rereading. What are you trying to rewrite? Okay, you can edit that. You have free will. So when it comes down to the unknown, how do you want to experience the unknown? I've done that not only with that whole concept, and it's worked for me. I think it helped me to jump into like a very magical space, and be detached from the collective energies, and not feel weathered or torn down. I can still be aware of what's going on. I can still be empathetic with what's going on. I have cried several times with the stuff that's going on in the world, but I don't have to allow it to also like start to infiltrate my everyday thinking, and like just kind of bring everything so heavy. If I become so heavy with everything that's going on in the world, then I'm not really going to be able to serve my purpose or our mission as effectively as I would like. Right. So there's a way to kind of detach. It's kind of like, I mean, I'm not comparing anything, right? But I know I'm a bodhisattva, but at the same time, you see some of the great leaders in the world. They were able to be in the world, but not of it at the same time. They still were able to detach through compassion. Um, and I have a story that I like to tell with that compassion, and but there's a difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Empathy is where you kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes in order to experience their reality. So you might end up abandoning your own self. Sympathy is where you're kind of halfway, one shoe in, one shoe out. Like, I see where you're talking about, I feel your pain, but this is where I am. And then compassion is being able to step back and be able to see the bigger picture, and from there be able to understand what's going on, and how you, in your presence, in your energy, your own essence, can divinely assist. Okay, so there's a bit of a difference with those, but anyways, that is your assignment for the week. And let's see, this collective reading, for those here through all time and space, whenever you watch this, either on the live or on the replay, what is the collective reading for the Scorpio new moon energy? Whew. All right, that was a lot. I heard a lot of speaking of empathy and sympathy and compassion. I'm trying to hold it together here, because there's a lot of struggle. We'll say struggle. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of disappointment. There's a lot of just like, ugh, just like, ugh. It's just like, it's very muddy, which makes sense because you have the root chakra, which is survival. It's our home, our tribe, our community, our family, our friends, humanity, the three-dimensional aspects of things, earth. And so that's the root chakra there. It's also our physical body, our health, our money, finances, home life, that kind of stuff. And then right above that is the sacral chakra, which is the element of water. That's deep emotions, our relationship, intimacy, sexuality, gender roles, intimate romantic connections with others, but also like with intimate connections with our family, empathy, creativity, is also there, but also fertility. Fertility is interesting, and fruitfulness. That's that new beginning coming through, and so it kind of, not to be cliche, but it's kind of like that, no mud, no lotus type of situation. Okay, and then everyone just take a deep breath for me. All right. Okay, back online. Um, so the message that I'm getting for the collective is just that, actually learning how to gauge really where you are in everything. Okay, learning, practicing discernment. Okay, practicing boundaries, prioritizing your health, not just your physical health, but also your emotional health, prioritizing your mental health right now, prioritizing your spiritual health right now, staying in your daily routines, your rituals, your ceremonies, staying in the things that bring you pleasure. How about that? Things that bring you pleasure. This is a time where, yes, we are being inundated with a lot of things that are being shown to us, but also things that people are wanting us to see. Okay, so sometimes we need to detach from social media, and especially television. I always talk about how television, TV is about telling a vision. We are not the ones in control of that. There's a grand master, a puppeteer in charge of the vision that is being told through television. And they have TV programs because that's what they do. They program, right? They program the mind, the subconscious mind. So this is a good opportunity to, yes, be aware of what's going on. But if you feel like things are getting very heavy, things are just mind-boggling, and just heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, and just, you can't, you're starting to feel unclear and uncertain about the path that you need to go on, take a moment to do like a digital detox. Okay, take a moment to clear your head space, clear the heart space, clear the body. Do things like go for a walk, leave the tech, not take what I call tech breaks, like leave the technology, you know to the side for a minute, leave it at home, just go for a walk, or go out in nature, connect, like breathe, do some meditation and peace and quiet. Maybe sit in the dark for a moment. That's what I was doing earlier. Sit in the dark for a moment. Go, when you go to sleep at night, don't have the TV on and all the music and all that kind of stuff. Maybe some binaural beats if you want to, but see what it's like just to sit and just be, you know what I'm saying, with yourself. Scorpio is very much about fixed energy, and it's a very strong and powerful energy, and it has a sense of bravery with it, right? Like a fearlessness. So it's like, don't be scared of the dark. Like the Nickelodeon show, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Hell no. Okay, because we got tools, we have free will. Okay, we can navigate this terrain in the ways that we choose to go through it. And remember, you have that free will, you have that power within you. You have that power to not only transform your reality, but also just transform the way you think about things, right? So, like I said earlier, maybe shifting your mindset and how you see darkness, how you see the unknown, how you see your connection to source, how you relate to yourself, that innate wisdom that lies within you. If you feel disconnected from it, figure it out. you know, connect to it, communicate, ask, you know, set the intention to build a relationship with that side of yourself so that you can navigate those darker areas that will lead you back to the light. That light is you. Okay, you possess both aspects within you. And so depending on where you are, sometimes that can kind of, you know, be a little elusive. But it feels like right now the collective message is take a moment to just, you know, breathe, but also take breaks where you can shift your focus away from all the negativity, all the shit, all the ugliness that's out there in the world, and come back to beauty, come back to pleasure, come back to joy, those little moments that can help bring light into the darkness and carry you through. Okay, we just went offline. So we're done. That's how that goes. When spirit's like done, we're like, whoop, checked out. All right. All right. So I'm glad to be back and looking forward to this meditation for our Patreon members, where we will be I'll be guiding us through a rebirthing meditation. So
yes, thank you guys. I'm glad to be back as well. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Arcana Atl, as well as to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, as above, so below. And we will see you guys next time for Astro Reiki for Sagittarius season. And then following that, the Gemini full moon. So bless.